Hey everybody, welcome back to another Facebook Live. I'm your host Jess.
And I'm your host, Lauren.
And today we have a really great topic, something that everybody can attest to and can, really use some tips on sometimes, and that is just succeeding in online high school. And we're going to give you all the tips and tricks. But first off, Lauren is going to give us our Facebook Live etiquette. So take it away.
So first of all, thank you all for joining us today. We're really excited to spend this time chatting and put our faces to your Penn Foster experience, because we know it could be, you're doing a lot of work on your own. So we're glad that you joined us here in person today, virtually in person. We'll start off by saying, this is an open discussion. So if you have any tips that you've found help you succeed in online high school, drop them in the comments, because you're the ones doing it. You're in it. You have great advice. Share it with everyone else. Also, please, give this a like, share it with any of your friends or peers that may also find this helpful or interesting. Just don't put any personal information in the comments. Everyone can see the comments. You don't want that getting out there for everybody. If you do need to talk to us about anything more personal, you can, of course, call Student Services. That number is 1-888-427-1000. If you're not a Penn Foster student just yet, but are thinking about online high school and if it may be the right thing for you, you can call us to our admissions department at 1-888-427-6500 and talk through any of your questions, concerns, needs, goals, and we'll be happy to chat with you about all those things. So that aside, we have a lot to cover. Let's get into the fun stuff. Today, we will be going over what it means to be a successful student, study tips to help you remember what you learn, time management skills to help you succeed, how to balance school and life, very important, and how to start thinking about life after high school, which I'm sure for all of you, it's not just your end goal to get that diploma. That's a big goal and it's super important, but there's a lot that comes after that. So we'll get to that today. But let's start off with what it means to be a successful student. And Jess, why don't you give us some insights on that question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, coming from me, I did a lot of online school myself. My college experience, a lot of it was done online. So a lot of these tips and tricks really, really resonate with me. And, being a successful student doesn't necessarily mean you get all A's. I mean, I know a lot of us, grew up going through school, watching people get A's and honor society and honor roll and dean's list and this and that. And that is not what defines you as a successful student. Being a successful student can just mean passing your classes, getting a good grade after studying really hard, progressing through your lessons and actually retaining and understanding what you're reading, and reaching your study goals, being able to actually sit down and tell yourself, I'm going to study for an hour and I'm going to learn this chapter. And at the end of it, you do, doesn't mean you get into the class, you get into the test and you take it and you get 100%, but it means that what you read and you helped yourself do when it comes to studying, you retained it, even if that doesn't, translate in other forms. So with that being said, specifically about reaching your study goals, study tips or something. Bless you, Lauren.
Thank you. Allergy season.
Yes. But study tips are, a huge help, and a lot of us have a lot of them. So if you have a study tip that you don't hear us mention today, like Lauren said before, drop it in the comments, because it might help somebody else and be that make or break to help them really start retaining those things. And the first study tip, obviously this is going to come as a shock to nobody, is taking good notes. But what does taking good notes mean? What does that mean to you, Lauren?
So I think the importance of taking good notes is really so it gets you kind of thinking a little bit more about what you're learning. So if you find something notable, it means that there was a process that went on in your brain to make a note and to kind of critically think about why that thing matters. So writing it down and literally making a note of it helps you, even for just that couple seconds that it takes for you to write it down. Critically think about why that's relevant to the subject or the topic that you're learning about, and that it is something important. So in terms of note-taking tips, I would say know yourself. I'm somebody who I really enjoy handwritten notes. So while I may be working or learning on a computer or my phone, I like to keep a notebook nearby so that I can jot things down. And that helps me. For some of you, if you're learning on the go and you just have your laptop or you're learning on your phone, I think it's totally fine to use a digital notes app and quickly just type in the things that stand out to you. We all have different learning styles. So even for some of you, you might be more of an auditory learner, meaning that if you say something back, it helps you remember. So you could record a voice memo on your phone, and that might be something that works for you. So if you aren't sure what kind of learner you are, what type of notes work best, test out a few different methods and see what really helps you get that information to stick. Another tip that I would give is to don't write down everything or make a note of everything. Again, consider what the important points are or the things that really stick out to you as interesting, because you have to trust your intuition and your learning experience in this. And if something stands out to you, it probably is something worth making a note of to remember for a test, an exam, an essay that you're writing, whatever that may be. It also helps you to avoid a super cluttered notebook or a super cluttered notes app, because you're going to look at a cluttered notebook in any form and be super overwhelmed. And then that's when studying is not fun. It's intimidating. You feel like you're reading the passage or the chapter all over again. And it's not going to help you when you're going back and refreshing yourself on all that information. So try and really stick to the big points, maybe the top 3 key things you learn in a section, or the thing that you think is going to be on your exam. You can also highlight important points. So if you do like to print out your study guides or write things down on a pen and paper, use a highlighter. And then, so not only are you processing the material, writing down your notes for what's important, you're then highlighting the things that are like the most important. And it just makes for more efficient studying, and you'll be able to remember better the things that you're learning. And this is especially good for things like vocabulary or science facts or math equations, things like that you might have to remember. I also think it's important to break up your study time. So when you're preparing for a test, cramming at the last minute is not usually the best method, because you're going to be stressed out, you're going to lose sleep, and it's just going to give you a sense of anxiety that is not helpful in any way. So if you break up your studying into smaller chunks of time, like plan to start studying for your exams a couple days before, so that you can say, okay, today I'm going to cover these few things, tomorrow I'm going to cover these few things, and then the last day do a review of everything that you highlighted or took a note of, and that could really be helpful. Careful reading. Jess, this is something I'm going to pose to you because you're a big reader. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So when it comes to actually sitting and reading your material, for different people, it feels different. If you're the kind of person who likes to read in your personal life, you might be a much quicker read. You might be able to get through a paragraph in, under a minute. But if you're not that kind of person and you're reading something brand new and it's something you're trying to retain, it might take reading or rereading that same paragraph a couple times for it to really stick. Something that I always liked to do was taking the sections in my notes that were written out as paragraphs and then writing them out as flowcharts instead. So I would start with, whatever the heading was for the section or the guide or whatever, and then break it down. And these are the key points that it hit, and then break those key points down if they get broken down even more. And even in those breakdowns, you can put, if there was a word within that you didn't know the definition of, write down that definition as a branch off of your flowchart. And that was something that when I was in school really helped me, because it was so much easier for me to look at something visually than it was to sit and read that paragraph. Even though I am, an avid reader and I really like to read as a hobby, I like to read my fiction books. So when I was reading things that were informative and about business and marketing and all of those things, it wasn't as simple for me to just sit and read it and retain it as it is when you're reading somebody's story. Another thing that I think could really help, like Lauren was saying before, some of us are visual learners, some of us are auditory learners, some of us are physical learners. If it helps you to read that paragraph and rewrite it on a piece of loose leaf paper or type it as you're reading it, if that will help your brain retain it, then do that. It might take a little bit longer, but at least then you're not sitting and rereading a paragraph over and over and over and not retaining it. Another way that you can do that is reading it out loud. Looking at your lessons in your study guides, take your phone, or if you have a recorder or if you're on your computer, open up your microphone app and speak the words out loud, because then you're double dutying, because you're saying it out loud, which is helping you retain it, but then it also exists in that medium and you can listen to it back at other points in time. And that's another good way of studying too, is if you do if you do an auditory read, or if you verbalize it, then if you're driving in the car and there's nothing good on the radio, you can play it while you're driving instead of listening to music. You know what I mean? You could throw it on in the background while you're cooking. And sometimes it takes just listening to things without strictly focusing on them for them to actually resonate in your mind. So that was a lot to do with reading that didn't have a lot to do with reading, but those are some ways that you can take just plain old reading and turn it into a way that you can actually retain the information. Because you can say, oh, I read this paragraph 4 times. Like, how many times in your education experience, Lauren, have you sat and reread the same paragraph over and over and over again and you still don't know what it meant?
Oh yeah.
That's the killer. That's the study killer, is rereading the same thing over and over again. So I think the whole idea of everything we just covered is find the way that studying works for you specifically. Like Lauren said before, use your intuition. You know best what kind of learner you are. And for somebody, they might say, oh, well, just read it. Like, if you read it, you're going to get it. But for other people, that might not work. And you might have to take that extra step of making a flow chart, or getting out your highlighters and highlighting things, or recording yourself saying it. There's all different little tips and tricks that you can use to figure out what kind of learner you are. And that's only going to help you in all of your classes going forward.
I think another thing that you can do is to talk about the things that you're learning with a friend, even if they're not necessarily going through the same classes that you are. Even if it's a brother, sister, significant other, friend, whomever, if you're explaining it to someone else, then you are forced to make sense of it. So that can be helpful. So yeah, you just got to kind of test different things and really see what genuinely helps.
I love that idea, Lauren, of saying it and just regurgitating it to somebody else, because then at the end you ask them and you say, did you understand that? If they understood it, then that meant you understood it when you told it to them.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But as we were saying, part of being a successful studier is time management, because you are doing these self-paced classes, and that's great. But that also means that there's a lot of responsibility on you to manage your time. And you probably have that goal date of when you want to get your diploma by, and you're looking to hit it. And that's all on you. You don't have to be in a classroom at a specific time. Nobody is forcing you to log on every day. So we do want to talk about, time management and, avoiding procrastination, getting things done, because that's hugely important to success as well, and good studying, because like we said, if you cram, it's not always the path to success.
No, 100%.
So Jess, do you have any tips for making the most of your time?
Yes. So one thing that I do, just, did it when I was in school, continue to do it now, is setting up a schedule. I even keep my social life on a schedule because it just helps in the grand scheme of things to get you to keep yourself from getting overwhelmed. If you schedule out time to study and even if it takes writing out your whole day and saying, from the time I wake up, these are all the things that I have to do today, and finding that hour or 45 minutes that you can dedicate to doing that, then that doesn't, infringe on all the other things you have to do during the day because you set aside the time to do it. If between getting home from work and starting cooking dinner, you can take 45 minutes to study or to, do work on your classes, you set that time to do that, and then once you're done, you didn't lose any time because you're going to start cooking dinner right when you said you were going to. You know what I mean? That's absolutely one of the biggest tips that I can give, that any of us can give, is setting yourself a schedule, because even though your classes are self-paced, making that schedule is going to help you stick to the timeline you want to stick to. um Also deciding when you want to take your exams. Obviously, at the end of the day, you study to take these exams, to get those grades, to progress to the end. And one of the most important pieces of that is making sure that you're taking your exams when you are at your best. Because you could say, oh, well, I need to get this exam in by the end of the week, so I'm going to try to do it on Friday night, right after I get home from work, before I go out, for dinner with my friends, right before the weekend starts. And that might not be the best time for you, but it might be the best time for somebody else. So making sure that you're taking your exams and you're scheduling, again, with your schedule that we just talked about, you're scheduling everything around those times when you're going to be at your best, when your brain is at its peak. For some people that might be in the morning before they go to their day job. For some people it might be after they worked all day when they get home. For some people it might be taking that time on the weekends when they're not focused on their 9 to 5 or their day job, and taking some time out of your you know breaks from work to do that. So that's another huge thing. And also making to-do lists is another thing that I think, sounds so simple, right? But, actually sitting down to write those things out can seem time consuming, but it's not. It truly isn't. This even goes back to, the last Facebook Live we did, where we talked about making a budget and writing out your budget. Once you do it, it's going to make everything going forward in that easier. So if you write out your to-do list and you keep track of everything you need to accomplish, you can do it daily, you can do it weekly, you could do it monthly. Even if you say you want to progress to this point by the end of this month, then okay, well, this is going to take me this many hours, so how do I break that up by week? And then where do I fit those things into my days? It can help you meet your goals and also just not forget anything. You're not going to be like, oh man, I forgot to do this, because you had it written down and you told yourself you had to do it, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. And what I personally love about a good to-do list is every time you cross something off of it, that's an accomplishment. And it feels like an accomplishment. And, breaking out your goals and the things that you need to do into those smaller to-do items, first of all, makes all the work that you're doing much more manageable, but then you also get that feeling of accomplishment and and
In just, obviously everybody's situations are different,
you get to.
and we were talking about, there might be a certain point by which you wanted to finish your diploma, so you want to get, I also want these classes done in a certain amount of time. But sometimes, external factors can cause you to not be able to do the things you wanted to do when you wanted to do them. And don't be so hard on yourself, because if you are trying to manage your time and maybe, something took longer than it was supposed to and you didn't get to study when you set aside that time to, that's okay. Don't try to squeeze it into a shorter amount of time. Push it to the next week. These classes are self-paced for a reason, and they give you the flexibility to do those kind of things. So don't be hard on yourself if, the 45 minutes that you said you were going to spend studying tonight, you ended up, hanging out with your kid, or you just needed a break and you wanted to watch The Masked Singer. Take the time to do those things, and don't be hard on yourself when you feel like you have to take those breaks or you have to do other things, because that is not a good way to manage your time. And it just puts a lot more stress on you that you don't need.
That's a great point. And I think that goes into balancing school and life, which is another key area of success for succeeding in online high school, because it's not the only thing you have going on. You have a family, friends, maybe a significant other, maybe a job. Like, there's a million other things in your life, and they're all important. And making time for all of those things is so important. So, again, a good thing about doing online high school is you do have the flexibility to choose your schedule and work around your other responsibilities and the other things that you have on your plate. So we have some tips for balancing, and I'll go through a few of those. The first one would be to let your family and friends know your schedule. So if they know when you need to study, if they know when you're working on an assignment, they can back off a little bit from constantly needing you or trying to grab your attention as well, because hopefully they're here to support you and, help you have the time and space to do what you need to do. They can also help hold you accountable for your goals. So it's great to be able to tell a friend or a family member, hey, I'm working on graduating by this date, and having them every couple months say, hey, how are you doing going towards that? Because that can help you stay on track and stay motivated, which is great. It's also important to take breaks. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. It's really easy, I think, for some of us to just go and try and get it done as fast as possible. And that's awesome. And that's something you can do, is, move at a bit of a faster pace than maybe a traditional high school. But don't let it get to the point where it's making you sick. If you feel like you're getting burned out, or you're at that point where you're reading the same paragraph 5 times over, like Jess said, give yourself, take a walk around the block, check your TikTok, put on an episode of TV and give your brain a little rest. And then, if you are somebody who's really busy, see where you can fit in a little studying. If you're not somebody who's like, go on the studying, if you are lucky enough to have a lunch break at work where, maybe you're not socializing, you're trying to fill the time, log in and see what you can accomplish in that time. Even if it's a couple minutes before you go to bed and you're choosing between watching TV and logging in, if you feel like you're in a good headspace and that's when you work your best to log in, get started, make progress where you can, even if it's just in small increments. It really helps.
It's like that thing that they say, it might not be like, they say, like, wash your face every night. And some nights you do a full skincare routine, and sometimes you splash some water on your face. Doing that, splashing the water on your face is better than doing nothing. So if you do feel like, right, like Lauren said, right before you go to bed, 15 minutes before you fall asleep, you could, not do it, but you also could. And you're going to feel better for doing it also.
It's true. And at the end of the day, all the hard work is going to pay off, because there is life after high school.
Yes.
And you have, I'm sure for all of you, like, getting your high school diploma and graduating high school is a big deal. And that is it's a huge accomplishment. That's a huge goal earned, milestone reached. And got to focus on hitting that. But then it's exciting to think about your goals beyond this. Are you someone who wants to go to college, get a job? You get to consider all of these wonderful possibilities for your life. And it's nice to be able to dream about those and have those to focus on. It's never too early to start thinking about those things. So Jess, tell us a few things that are important to keep in mind when you are considering what comes next.
I think the first thing, specifically just going right off of what you said, is it's never too early to start thinking about it. And, if there's something that you want to do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to a career school? Do you know that you want to get a promotion at work? Start thinking about those things now and making, the mental connections to get yourself to that point. If you know that you want to go to college, obviously honing in those study tips and those things that really help you learn the best is really important, because you're going to continue learning after the fact. You know what I mean? And getting into your college classes, you're going to want to have those same tools and use those same resources that you discovered in your high school career to help you succeed in your college career. Not sure what kind of career you want? Take the time to explore different hobbies and see if you can make a career out of it. What do you like to do in your spare time? You know, if you can, look into, you know, what you need to start in that field. And so, I mean, for example, I knew, you know, being in high school, I was a creative person. I wanted to do something that, you know, was creative, but I also have like an analytical side to my mind. So going into business and going into marketing was the perfect merger of my creative ambitions and wanting to be able to continue to use my brain to create, but also be able to take those things and, you know, get the feedback, get the analytics, and adjust based off those things, you know. And talking to your friends and family about what they think you'd be great at is also a really great way to figure out what you want to do after high school. You know, the people who know you better, the only people who know you better than you know yourself are the people that you hold close. So your family, your friends, those are going to be the people who who only want to see you set up for success. So if you're looking for, you know, a confidence boost, if you're looking for an external third party idea of what somebody thinks you'd be good at based on what they know about you, then talk to those people and get their insight and get their opinion, because sometimes it just takes somebody else saying something to you for it to click, you know. And number one top thing that you want to make sure you do is to update your resume as soon as you finish high school. It is so exciting and so important that you did this and you made this, you know, you have this huge successful accomplishment that you did. Put it on that resume, type it out. You're going to feel so good once you do it, and it's only going to help you going forward. And you don't want to forget to do it either, because then you might start applying to jobs and applying to, you know, trying to go to school, and you never updated your resume, and you got to make sure you do that.
It's so true. And if you're looking for more resume and interviewing and job advice, we did a great Facebook Live on all of that. So if you scroll a little bit down, and you can find that video and get that great advice from Kristen, who works at Penn Foster. She's a hiring manager here. She has a lot of experience reading resumes and interviewing and helping people get into great jobs. So she definitely has some great insights there.
Yes.
But wanted to say thank you all so much for joining today and talking about, you know, what can help you be successful in high school. At the end of the day, you know, it's all this, you are amazing for choosing to do this and choosing to do this at your own pace and taking this control of your education. So we want to support you. Seriously, give us a call Student Services. Again, that number is 1-888-427-1000. You know, if you do hit any roadblocks or contact your instructors, we're here to help. Another amazing resource, and we'll drop the link, is a student community. It's a great place to meet your fellow learners, connect on your interests. You can talk about this stuff with people who get it. They're going through the same thing that you are. So please do that. And then if, you know, you are really feeling like you had a good study day, or if you have a good study tip, or you graduate, or if there's anything that you want to share, post it on Instagram or post it to our Facebook page, and tag us at Penn Foster, because we love to reshare all of your accomplishments and advice and milestones reached, and just be really proud of you. So please stay connected with us and let us know what you're up to, because we love to see it.
Yes, I absolutely do. One of the top, probably the top thing that I get to do in my job. So please share your accomplishments with us. Let us know how we can help you, and go study. Go study.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right now. Go do it. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.